Everything you were taught about getting what you want was wrong. Not slightly wrong. Wrong the way a map is wrong when someone hands it to you upside down and watches you walk into the sea. You have been losing arguments you didn't know you were in. Every day, men around you do something you were never shown how to do, and they do it to you. They walk into a room and the room tilts toward them. They make an offer and somehow you talk yourself into it. They go quiet and you fill the silence with concessions nobody asked for. You went home and called it a bad day. It was not. It was a skill theirs meeting its absence in you. Machiavelli wrote these rules down 500 years ago, and they banned the book. Not because it was false, because it worked, and because men who understood it would be far harder to control. What you are about to learn sits on his foundation, sharpened with the self-command the Stoics built. Machiavelli for the room, Stoicism for the man standing in it. Here is the part that should bother you. The people who were supposed to prepare you for this knew nothing about it, or knew and kept it. Fathers raised their sons to be good, and good is a fine thing to be and a fatal thing to be only. Teachers trained you to raise your hand and wait your turn, and a man who waits his turn his whole life is a man who is easy to manage, which was the point. Every voice that told you to be open, to be honest, to ask clearly, and put your cards on the table was one of two things: naive, because nobody had used him hard enough yet, or aware, because an open man is a readable man, and a readable man is a useful man to have nearby. I have stopped assuming it is always the first one. You can decide which one raised you. So nobody passed this down. It died in the generation above you, if it was ever there at all. You are going to be the one who breaks that for yourself and for whatever men come after you. It starts with one truth that costs something to accept. People do not trust what is honest. They trust what looks like them. There are 3 laws, not 3 tips. 3 parts of one machine, and the machine only runs in order. The first is the mirror, how you become a man others believe before you have earned it, not through honesty, through resemblance. The second is the reading. Once they trust you, you can see them, and the man who can see the room knows where to put his weight. The third is the unspoken, yes, the one nobody teaches, because once a man can do it, he stops needing to argue or push or convince. He arranges the room so the other man talks himself into the conclusion and walks out certain it was his own. There is one thing underneath all 3. A single principle the men who run things understand and never say out loud. It is not in Machiavelli's book. He circled it and never named it. I will name it at the end. The 3 laws are the lock. That principle is the key, and a key is worth nothing until you have seen the lock. By the end, you will see the machine running in every room you have ever lost. Then you will see it in the rooms you are about to win. Hold one sentence until then, because you will earn it. I do not persuade. I let the room do it. Keep it in your pocket. We are coming back for it. The first law. The mirror. People do not trust what is honest. They trust what looks like them. Everything you were told runs the other way. You were told that if you were open, people would feel safe with you. That honesty disarms. It does not. Honesty hands the other man your file and asks him to be gentle with it. Men are not gentle with a file, they are efficient with it. Watch what happens when one man trusts another quickly. It is never because the second man was transparent. It is because something in him felt familiar, the same pace, the same posture, the same words handed back slightly warmed. The brain reads sameness as safety, long before it reads honesty at all. That is tribal wiring running in a glass office, and the man who knows it stops trying to impress you and starts becoming your reflection. Get this part right, because men butcher it by turning it into a performance. The mirror is not mimicry. A man who copies your gestures is a man you catch, and a caught mirror reads as mockery, and mockery makes an enemy faster than insult. He notices you speak slowly, so he slows to meet you. He notices you guard your space, so he gives you room. He notices the words you reach for. You say fair, you say straightforward, you say no nonsense, and 20 minutes later, those exact words come back inside his sentences, and something in you eases, because a man who talks the way you talk must think the way you think. He does not. He learned the shape of your thinking and put it on like a coat he takes off in the lift. To see this law proven, look at the men who survived the most dangerous rooms ever built, rooms where being read wrongly cost you your head. Talleyrand served the French monarchy, the revolution that executed the monarchy, the empire that buried the revolution, and the monarchy again when it came back. 5 regimes that wanted each other dead. One man who served all 5 and died in his own bed. He did not survive by being honest with any of them. He survived by becoming, in each room, the reflection that room needed to see. The honest advisors lost their heads. The mirror kept his. Run it back a century, and you find Cardinal Mazarin doing the same thing, in the same country, a foreigner the French court despised, who made himself indispensable by becoming, to each faction, the man who seemed to think exactly as they did. He outlasted a civil war fought to remove him and died the richest man in France by appearing to agree and conceding nothing that mattered. 2 men, 2 centuries, 1 law. The honest are remembered fondly and briefly. The fluent are remembered as power. Forget the courts. Look at the office tomorrow morning. There is a man 2 rungs above you who is not smarter than you and does not work harder than you, and somehow every senior person in the building is comfortable around him. You called it charm, or luck, or knowing someone. Look again. Watch him in the next meeting. He shifts slightly with each person he speaks to, sharper with the sharp ones, slower with the careful ones, warmer with the warm ones. You called him fake. You were close. He is not fake. He is fluent. And fluency in other men is a kind of power you were taught to find distasteful. Now ask who benefits from you believing that. Not you. The men who taught you it was beneath you to study people. They needed a generation of competitors who would not. Hold that. We come back to it. Stop. You already know who he is. You saw his face before I finished the sentence. Now watch what he is actually doing. Here is what nobody tells you about the mirror. It is not the lie you are afraid of. You are not pretending to be someone you are not. You are choosing which true part of yourself walks into the room. The mirror is not invention. It is selection. The weak man drags the same single self into every room and calls his rigidity integrity. The man with standing brings the version of himself that matches the man across the table and loses nothing true doing it, because all of it was true. This is where the Stoics walk in, and they walk in early, because the mirror has a precondition almost no man can meet. To reflect a man, you cannot need anything from him in the moment you are reflecting him. The instant you need his approval, your want leaks into your posture, and need is the one thing a mirror cannot hide. A needy mirror is a beggar with better manners, and every man can smell it. You cannot reflect a man while you are reaching for him. You were taught to be yourself in every room. The men who win bring a different true self to each one and never tell a single lie doing it. The second law. The reading. Once you are trusted, you can see. That is the order, and the order is the entire thing. Trust first, sight second. A man only shows you his real hand once he has decided you are safe to show it to. This is why the mirror comes first and the reading second, and why most men fail at both. They hunt for tells while the room is still armored, and walk out with nothing but their own anxiety dressed up as insight. The reading does not begin until the room stops performing for you, and the room only stops once it believes you are one of its own. So what are you reading for? Not the words. The words are the press release. You are reading the gap between what a man says and what his body, his tempo, his choices are doing underneath it. He tells you the project is fine and checks his phone twice saying it. He congratulates you on the promotion and it lands 1 second late, and that second is the file. He says the number is final and his hand opens slightly on the table, and an open hand on a final number is not a final number. You sat in these rooms your whole life. You felt these things, called them instincts, and did not trust them because nobody told you the instinct was data. Here is the part that breaks men. The reason you have not been reading the room is not that you cannot. It is that you have been too busy being read. While you rehearsed your next sentence, the other man watched your face. While you waited your turn, the thing they trained into you, hand up, wait your turn, good boy, he used your wait as a window. The man planning what to say is blind for exactly as long as he is planning it. The man with nothing to prove keeps both eyes open the whole time. This is the second place the Stoics are not decoration. You cannot read a room you are emotionally inside. A man insults you. The heat climbs your neck and you have gone blind. Your nervous system turns inward to manage the sting. And for those few seconds, the whole table could exchange glances about you and you would not catch one. Which is exactly when tables exchange glances about you. Composure is not a virtue here. It is sight. The Stoic who takes the insult without flinching is not suppressing anything. He is staying operational while every man betting on his reaction shows his hand. Watch the man who has this. He is almost always the quietest one in the room. Not shy, quiet. He asks one short question and stops. And the silence after it does work his words never could, because most men cannot survive silence and will fill it. And what they fill it with is the truth they came in determined to hide. The man who talks is spending, the man who listens is collecting. And hold this, the reading shows you the room. It cannot make the room move. That takes the principle I have not named yet, and it is closer than you think. This is the oldest discipline in statecraft. Fouché, who ran Napoleon's secret police, built the most feared intelligence network in Europe, not by speaking, but by being the man in the room who said the least and remembered the most. He survived. The same regime changes Talleyrand did, by the same method, pointed the other way. Talleyrand reflected men so they trusted him. Fouché read men so he owned them. The two sat in the same cabinets, hated each other, and outlasted nearly everyone, because between them they ran the whole machine, one the mirror, one the file. You were trained to do the opposite of both. You were trained to fill the gap, to show you had understood, to prove you were paying attention by speaking. You proved you were paying attention by spending, while the quiet man across from you collected. You have met this man. He unnerved you, and you were right to be unnerved. Think of the last time you sat across from one the interview, the quiet relative who said almost nothing and somehow ran the dinner. You did most of the talking. You told yourself afterward you had carried the conversation, that he had been a little dull, a little hard to read. Run it back. He asked you 3 questions and you answered for 40 minutes. By the time you stood up, he knew what you wanted, what you feared, what you would accept and where you would fold, and you knew his name and that he was a good listener. His file on you was more accurate than your file on him, and you built it for him, for free, because the silence made you nervous and talking made you feel in control. That is not a personality difference. It is a skill gap. And skill gaps close from the day a man decides to close them. The man planning what to say cannot see the room. The man with nothing to prove never takes his eyes off it. Stop here. What has been named so far is the diagnosis. If you have just recognized the fluent man 2 rungs above you, and recognized with some discomfort that the quiet man across the table has been reading you for years while you mistook his silence for having nothing to say, type 1 word below. Fluent. Not a vote, a contract with yourself that you have seen the gap and intend to close it. The first half was the diagnosis. The second half is the weapon and the principle underneath all 3 I promised at the start. It is closer now. The third law. The unspoken, yes, the law nobody teaches, and now you know enough to see why. The first 2 laws are about you. This one is about what you do to the room once you have it. You will stop persuading people. Persuasion is what weak men do, because it is all they have. You will arrange the conditions so the other man persuades himself and defends the yes afterward as his own. This is the line between a salesman and a sovereign. You can feel a salesman from across a room, the lean in, the urgency, the way his want is louder than yours. The instant you feel a man pushing, something in you braces, because the push tells your nervous system that his gain is your loss. The push is the resistance. The man who runs the unspoken yes never pushes, because the moment he wants it visibly, he has handed you the reason to withhold it. So he does 3 things instead, and they are concrete, because this is where a man becomes dangerous or stays harmless. First, he makes the conclusion your discovery. He does not tell you what to do. He lays the facts down, asks the one question that has a single honest answer, and then he stops talking and lets you say the thing out loud. A man defends what he says 10 times harder than what he was told. So he stops telling. He builds the road and lets you walk it, and you arrive certain you chose the destination. Machiavelli understood this 500 years before there was a word for it. He wrote that men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, that they are governed by how a thing appears, not by what it is, because everyone can see and almost no one can feel underneath. Read that again, because he is not describing princes, he is describing the man across your desk. He does not need the thing to be his idea. He needs it to appear to be his idea, and the appearance will do all the work the truth was supposed to do. The Florentines had a proverb older than the book. Chi fa da sé, fa per tre. He who does it himself does it as if for 3. A man does 3 times the work to defend a thing he believes he built, so you let him build it. You hand him the bricks and call it his house. Benjamin Franklin worked this his whole life and was honest enough to write it down. He made it a rule never to tell a man he was wrong, never to contradict him directly, because the moment you do, the man stops listening and starts defending. Instead, he would say he might be mistaken, but did the other man not think perhaps? in this case, and he would lay the facts in an order that led to one conclusion and let the man arrive there and call it his own. He moved a room of men who agreed on almost nothing toward a constitution, not by winning arguments, but by making each man feel the result was partly his idea. He carried his point more often this way than any man who argued well, and made fewer enemies doing it. The man who needs to be seen as right wins the argument and loses the room. Franklin lost every argument on purpose and walked out with the country. Second, he leaves the offer in silence. This is the hardest physical act in all of it, and it is why most men cannot do it. He makes the offer, the number, the proposal, the ask, and then he says nothing. He does not soften it. He does not fill the gap. He does not add but no pressure or any of the small surrenders men make to escape a quiet room. He lets the silence sit on the table like a weight and waits. Because the first man to speak after an offer is the man who negotiates against himself. Picture it, because you have lived it. You are across a desk on a gray Tuesday, the kind of meeting you rehearsed in the car on the way in. You have practiced the number all week, said it to yourself on the train, talked yourself up to it because it was higher than you were comfortable with, and that was the point. You say it, it lands, and then there is silence. 3 seconds, maybe 4, and it is unbearable. The quiet presses on your chest. His face gives you nothing, no frown, no nod, just a man waiting, and your mind fills the blank with the worst version of what he might be thinking, that the number was insulting, that you have overplayed it. And before you have decided to speak, you hear your own voice say it. But I have some flexibility on that. 5 words. Nobody asked for them. He did not move a single muscle. He let the silence do the work, and you paid it with your own margin. And you drove home that evening telling yourself he was a tough negotiator, and you had done well to read him. He was not tough. He read nothing. He was quiet, and you could not survive the quiet, so you negotiated against yourself and handed him the difference with both hands. You have done it in the salary conversation where you named your worth and immediately discounted it. In the argument with someone you love, where the silence after you stood your ground felt so much like rejection that you folded just to make it stop. Every time you could not let 3 seconds stand, it cost you, and you have never once added up the bill. Third, and this is the darkest turn, so let it land, he lets you think you are winning. The unspoken yes is the move of a man who worked out that the appearance of victory is something you can hand to another person while you keep the substance for yourself. Let him have the bigger title in the conversation. Let him correct you on the small thing. Let him believe he drove the harder bargain. Men who need to look like they won will give you almost anything for the feeling, and the man who gives that feeling away cheaply walks out with the only thing that mattered. This is the room where Machiavelli and the Stoics become one. Machiavelli hands you the move, arrange the conditions, kill the push, let him close himself. The Stoics hand you the only thing that makes it possible, the capacity to not need the credit, not need to be seen winning, not need to fill the silence. Self-command was never about peace. It was leverage the whole time. The strongest agreement in the world is the one a man believes he reached alone. You did not change his mind. You built the room his mind walked through. The diagnosis is the easy part. You have it now. What comes next costs you the man you have performed for years, the open one, the one who explains himself, the one who fills silences, the one who needs the room to watch him win. You cannot pick these 3 laws up without putting that man down. He does not come with you. Tomorrow you will be in a room, a meeting, a negotiation, a conversation with a person who has something you want or wants something from you. Here is what you do, in order, and none of it is abstract. Walk in and say less than you planned. You wrote a case in your head, the points, the line you would lead with. Cut the lead. Let the other man fill the first 90 seconds, because that is when a man reveals what he actually came for, and you spend those seconds becoming the mirror, his tempo, his register, the words he reaches for. When he tells you what he wants, do not answer the words, answer the gap. Watch where his certainty thins the thing he over-explains, the number his voice tightens around, the request he frames as casual that is not casual. That gap is the reading, and that gap is where your weight goes. When it is your turn to ask once, clean, and shut your mouth. This is the unspoken yes, and it is the hardest thing on the list. You will make the offer, and your body will scream to soften it. Do not. Count to 5 behind your teeth if you have to, and when he moves to make it feel like he won, let him. Give the feeling away. Keep the substance. The title of the conversation is his. The outcome is yours. And you say none of this out loud to anyone. A man who explains his method has handed his file to the whole room, and the architecture only works while it stays invisible. If you have ever sat in a negotiation and watched a discount fall out of your own mouth into a silence you could not stand, write what happened below. Not for me. For the next man scrolling this comment section who needs to know he is not the first one to lose money to 3 seconds of his own discomfort. The man who explains his power has already surrendered it. The architecture only holds while it stays invisible. We have arrived. There is one final movement, the principle from the opening, the thing under all 3 laws that Machiavelli circled and never named. Here it is. Every one of these laws is a refusal to be the man who needs. The mirror works because you do not need his approval, so you can give him resemblance instead of reaching for it. The reading works because you do not need to win the exchange in the moment, so your eyes stay open while he's close. The unspoken yes works because you do not need the credit, the last word, or the visible victory, so you can hand all 3 away and keep what they were guarding. Need is the tell underneath every weak position a man has ever held. The salesman's push is need. The over-explainer's flood of words is need. The man who cannot survive silence is being strangled by need in real time. Every single thing you were trained to do, be open, ask clearly, lay the cards down, fill the gap, make sure they know it was you is one costume worn by the same naked need, and the men who dressed you in it were either drowning in it or feeding on yours. So the rule under the rules is this: you do not become powerful by wanting power. You become powerful by needing nothing in the room badly enough to lose your sight, your silence, or your composure reaching for it. The Stoics built the discipline of needing nothing you cannot give yourself and called it the road to peace. It was a weapon, and they were too noble to say so. Machiavelli named every move and never named the thing they had in common, because a man cannot always see the floor he stands on. You can see it now. The floor is the absence of need. This is why you win before you speak. By the time you open your mouth in that room tomorrow, the contest is already over, not because of anything you will say, but because of everything you no longer need. You do not persuade. You let the room do it. Go back to the opening. You have been losing arguments you didn't know you were in, and you know now what you lost them to. Not smarter men, not luckier men. Men who had arranged themselves to need nothing from the room, while you walked in needing to be liked, to be heard, to be agreed with, and broadcast every one of those needs before you sat down. The gap is closing while you watch. That was the point of the last half hour. You do not win the room by wanting it. You win it by being the only man in it who needs nothing. There is one sentence in this video the men who stop losing those silent arguments will already be saying to themselves before they walk into the next room. I do not persuade. I let the room do it. Say it once now, in your own voice, before you are asked to type it. I do not persuade. I let the room do it. If it has already become true for you, if you have sat in the silence after your own offer and let it hold, type it below. Type it if you intend to make it true, starting with the room you walk into tomorrow. The men who type it have started running the architecture. The men who scroll past it walk back into rooms that were already managing them. Subscribe if you intend to keep your eyes open in the rooms where other men close theirs. Because the men who watch one of these and disappear are the same men who, 6 months from now, will be filling another silence with another concession and will not remember the half hour where they almost learned not to. There is a video on this channel about the law of the closed door, why a strong man refuses without explaining and never announces the line he has drawn. Without it, what you learned here only takes you halfway, because the mirror, the reading, and the unspoken yes all stand on a man who has first learned to stop narrating himself. Watch it tonight. The two pieces lock into place when they sit together. You came in believing that being honest and open and clear would make men trust you and hand you what you asked for. You are leaving knowing the men who get what they want do the opposite. They reflect, they read, they stay silent. They need nothing badly enough to lose their composure reaching for it. The map you were handed was upside down, and you have just turned it the right way up. The generation above you did not pass this down. You will. Whatever men come after you will learn it from a man who finally stopped walking into the sea. This is your cold awakening.